Say hello to the black face of white supremacy. Thank you for this event. Joni, thank you for inviting me. It is wonderful and an honor to run for the presidency of the United States of America. I was in my hotel room yesterday, went down to the lobby to have a beverage or two. I'm approached by a reporter from one of the major newspapers. "Why are you doing this? You are such a long shot," he said. I said, "Well, lots of candidates are long shots until they aren't. Can you say 2016? Are you doing this because you want to write a book? Are you doing this for a TV deal? Are you doing this for a radio deal, as some of the candidates in the past have received when they've run and not won?" I said, "Well, let's see. I've had a column since April of 1998. I've had 2 nationally syndicated television shows. I had one when I gave it up to run for president. I had a radio show that I gave up when I ran for governor. I've already had all the things that you suggested. I'm doing this because I have an obligation. My father was a World War II Staff Sergeant Marine vet. Hoorah! He served in Guam. My older brother Kirk, my late older brother Kirk, was in the Navy. He was a Vietnam-era vet. He served on the 6th Fleet in the Mediterranean during the Vietnam War. My late younger brother Dennis was in the Army. He actually did go to Vietnam. I'm the only one in my family who never served, and I've never felt good about that. And I feel this is my time. I have a patriotic, a religious, and a moral obligation to do what I can for a country that's been so good to my family and good to me, and that's why I am doing this. Quick story about my background. My father, as I mentioned, was a World War II vet. My father and I had a difficult relationship. We stopped speaking to each other when I was 15 years old. We literally said virtually nothing to each other for almost 10 years. Now I'm 25 years old. I decided to sit down with the old man for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Maybe we could work things out so I could sleep a little better. And we sat down, and our conversation lasted 8 hours. And during that time, for the first time, I saw my father cry. My father said, "Larry, let me tell you about my father. You know your last name, Elder?" I said, "Yes." He said, "That is not the name of my biological father." I said, "What? Who's Elder?" "Well, Elder was the man who was in my life the longest. He was irresponsible. He was physically abusive to my mom. When I tried to stop it, he was physically abusive to me. I never met my biological father." My dad said at the age of 13, he came home, began quarreling with his mom's then boyfriend. The mother sides with the boyfriend, throws my father out of the house, never to return. You've heard the expression, "so-and-so was dirt poor." My dad left the house with nothing in his pocket on a road that was dirt. He was dirt poor. Black boy, 13 years old, Athens, Georgia, Jim Crow South at the beginning of the Great Depression. I said, "Well, Dad, what did you do?" And he told me about his life. "I walked down the road," he said. "I picked up trash. I did anything I could." Ultimately, he became a Pullman porter on the trains. They were the largest private employer of blacks in those days. And this little black boy from Athens, Georgia, was able to travel to a place called California, a city called Los Angeles, and my dad was stunned. You could walk through the front door of a restaurant and get served. He always had packages of crackers and tin cans of tuna, because you never knew in the South whether you'd be able to get a meal. My dad made a mental note, maybe someday I'll relocate to California, Pearl Harbor. My dad joined the Marines. I asked him why. For the Marines in here, you know what I'm going to say. 2 reasons. They go where the action is, and I love those uniforms. He gets out of the service. He was in charge of cooking for the colored soldiers. The Army, the military, as you know, was segregated at the time. He goes back to Chattanooga, Tennessee, where he met and married my mom to get him a job as a short order cook. And he was told to his face, "Pardon me, we don't hire niggers." He went to an unemployment office. The lady said, "You went to the wrong door." My dad sees colored only, goes to that door to the very same lady who sent him out. My dad said to my mom, this is nonsense. I'm going to LA, I'm gonna get me a job as a cook, and I will send for you. My dad goes out to LA, he walks around for a day and a half, and he's told repeatedly, you have no references. My dad said, I need references to make ham and eggs? He said, I'll work for free for 2 weeks just for a reference. They wouldn't do that. My dad goes to the unemployment office, this time just one door. Lady says, I have nothing. My dad says, what time do you open? She says, 9 o'clock. What time do you close? She says, 5. My dad said, I'll be sitting in that chair till you find something. Sat in the chair for a whole day, came back the next day. She calls him up. I have something, I don't know whether you're going to want it. My dad said, of course I'm going to want it. I'm starting a family, what is it? She said, it's a job cleaning toilets at Nabisco brand bread. My dad did that for 10 years, took a second full-time job with another bread company, also cleaning toilets, cooked for a family on the weekend because he wanted to make additional money, because he wanted my mom to be a stay-at-home mom, as she was until the last of us was in middle school. And he went to night school to get his GED, and then went to night school, trade school, to learn how to operate a restaurant. At the age of 47 years old, my dad had saved enough nickels and dimes. He started a little cafe near downtown LA, which he ran until his 80s. My dad then owned that property, the property next door, plus the house that's still in our family. So when my dad retired, he had a net worth just a little bit under $1 million. So please don't tell me today in the year 2023 that America is systemically racist. My dad was a lifelong Republican, the only one I ever knew until I began working for a law firm. My dad said, Democrats want to give you something for nothing. When you try and get something for nothing, you almost always end up getting nothing for something. My dad told my brothers and me the following: hard work wins. You get out of life what you put into it. Larry, you cannot control the outcome, but you are 100% in control of the effort. Before you moan or groan about what somebody did to you or said to you, go to the nearest mirror, look at it, and say to yourself, what could I have done to change the outcome? And finally, my father said this: no matter how hard you work, no matter how good you are, sooner or later, bad things are going to happen to you. How you deal with those bad things will tell your mother and me if we raised a man. We all know what the issues are. The issues are we need to undo the damage that Biden-Harris have done in the last 2.5 years. 5 million illegal aliens in this country because he reversed the policies that made our border the most secure border we ever had, probably in the history of this country. The war on oil and gas has made us go from being energy independent to energy dependent. It's caused inflation, paying people not to work. We have huge problems with our educational systems, especially in urban America. Do you know we have something called the National Report Card? It's the National Assessment of Educational Policy, also known as the Nation Report Card. 85% of black 8th graders, these are 13-year-old kids, can neither read nor do math at grade level. 50% of these kids can't do basic reading, which means a substantial number of black kids in America are functionally illiterate. And we're talking about critical race theory and pitting black kids against white kids because of something that happened 150 years ago. Meanwhile, kids can't read and do math. There are 13 public high schools in Baltimore where 0% of the kids can do math at grade level, and another half dozen where only 1% can. That means half of the public high schools in Baltimore, either the kids are 0 proficient in math or only 1% in. And they're all located, guess where? In the inner city. And the city has been run by Democrats, including black Democrats, for a very long time. Please, let's stop the nonsense about America being systemically racist. The real disparity in America is the epidemic of fatherlessness. 70% of black kids enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. 50% of Hispanic kids enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. 25% of white kids. 40% of all American kids enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. And if you were raised without a father, you are 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. What's happened? We have a welfare state that has incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. I have a book that outlines all my agenda, talks about my background, my race for governor, and what I intend to do when I become president of the United States. It's called As Goes California. I want to get up there on that debate stage in Milwaukee. I need 40,000 individual donors. You can go to my website, elderforpresident.com. As little as $10, just get me up there on that debate stage in Milwaukee. And once I do, game on, hold my beer. Thank you so much for having me. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.